Power down surgery. Oh, dude. Ooh. Get fricked.
Savage, dude.
Frick.
Going to hell.
You know what I say to that? Wolfenstein Youngblood, the only game where instead of sprinting everywhere, you just intensely power walk. I love the sprint mechanic. It's so terrible. You look so funny. Sprint, please sprint. Back during E3 2018, I sat down to watch the Bethesda presentation. I'm not a particularly huge fan of Bethesda stuff, but it's a tradition for me every year to watch every E3 press conference. Despite the few interesting announcements, I wasn't really feeling it. That is until they started talking about Wolfenstein. More specifically, they announced the 2-player online co-op game Wolfenstein Youngblood. Now at this time, I hadn't played any of the newer Wolfenstein games, but the idea of an online co-op Wolfenstein game, I was really freaking excited. Fast forward to a few weeks before Youngblood was released, I had just finished Wolfenstein: The New Order and The New Colossus. Despite being flawed games, they were really fun, and playing through them got me even more excited for what Youngblood might hold. So after playing through it, what did I think? Well, let's find out. For those of you who are new to this channel, I review games specifically based on their merits as co-op experiences. Whether it's a game specifically designed for co-op like Wolfenstein Youngblood, or just a side game mode like Call of Duty Zombies, I cover what it's like to play with your friends and how to get everyone in a session. And of course, these reviews are segmented by the good, the bad, and the co-op. And let's get things started by talking about the good. The most apparent thing is that this game looks freaking gorgeous. Youngblood definitely has things like high texture quality and insanely detailed maps, but what really sells it is the lighting. From the light of your gun's muzzle flash catching on the nearby walls to the gorgeous god rays, the game really looks amazing. Of course, I don't need to explain that to you. You're watching footage of it right now. And what's even better is it runs fantastically. I think it goes without saying that both Wolfenstein and Doom are incredibly well optimized, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. This game is really well optimized. Of course, I have a really beefy machine, so I could just be brute forcing my way to a good frame rate, but from what it seems like, it should be able to run on most gaming PCs pretty easily. And isn't it always a good feeling when a game not only looks good, but also runs well? Now, after you're done soaking in the visuals and the performance of the game, I feel the next thing you'll notice is the guns. Surprisingly enough, a game all about shooting Nazis has some really fantastic feeling weapons. While I realize satisfying guns to shoot isn't an uncommon thing when it comes to first-person shooters, I just feel like it's worth noting. If you've ever played a Wolfenstein game before this, you already know how this goes. But from a gun that shoots lightning to a revolving shotgun, they all have their own punch and weight to them that make them feel unique from each other. I think my favorite gun is the aforementioned shotgun, just because it feels meaty and it also absolutely annihilates your enemies. Yo, what up, boys? Oh my gosh, the shotgun's amazing. Now, there's one feature in co-op games that's never really clicked for me despite its presence in a lot of games. That feature is stealth. I think why I haven't really been into it is because you can't really hold a conversation while sneaking and coordinating, and on top of that, it's really hard to goof off. Now, the stealth doesn't always work, but when it does, it's actually a ton of fun. Most of the fun gameplay comes from the fact that you have access to an active cloak. While it's a huge pain to upgrade that given ability, once you have it, it makes for some pretty enjoyable stealthing, especially since you can coordinate with your buddy when each of you will utilize your cloak and if you need to make a distraction of some kind. As I'm saying this, I realize I'm just basically describing to you how stealth mechanics work, but just trust me when I say it's fun when you get to do it. Okay. I've tried my hardest to take an unbiased look at this game. It took an incredible amount of restraint to not add a but to the end of everything I've said so far. But now that we're moving into the bad section of this review, I'm just gonna say it. This game sucks. Now you're probably like, oh, it's probably not that bad, am I right? No. It's bad. The 3 things that I've listed about this game is literally all that I can think of that isn't bad. On top of that, it was so freaking hard to get any good funny moments while recording for this review. So I apologize if the cutaways are overly negative. They were all I had.
Dude, we did this one.
You're right, except we didn't. It's the same exact map, but it's different.
Are you kidding me?
Getting tired of this game yet?
Now, I'm not gonna say I was suspicious from all those 1-star reviews, but
I'm just gonna put that in there. To start this turd sandwich off, I'm gonna begin with my biggest issue with Wolfenstein Youngblood, and that's its obvious inspirations from Destiny. Now let's get one thing straight. I really like Destiny. Despite its numerous flaws, it's got a certain charm to it that keeps me coming back. Plus, it's fun to play with friends, so it's at the very least a good time killer. Of course, I'm not the biggest fan of the looter shooter genre, but it at least makes sense to have in an MMO context. But the key difference between these two games is that Youngblood isn't an MMO, yet it just acts like it is. And there are several factors that contribute to the Destiny vibes, like the open world, for instance. Of course, open world games aren't inherently bad, but for a series that's known for being very linear, it's really strange. But okay, I guess open world Wolfenstein at least sounds cool, but is the world as open as something like Far Cry 5? No. Not even close. Even saying that this game has an open world is a total disservice to the entire genre. Essentially, the game is broken up into a few quote-unquote open areas that you can get to via the game's subway system. Each of these areas are more of just a collection of corridors, streets, and alleyways. There's hardly anything open about them. The only reason it can be called open is because you can return to each area whenever you feel like it. But the map isn't the only thing that's inspired by Destiny. Youngblood also tries very hard to have a leveling system like it too. In a traditional looter shooter, the gameplay loop is to kill enemies, get better gear, equip said gear to level up, and kill tougher enemies to get more loot and repeat. Pretty simple, but it can be very addicting. Well, I think the devs forgot about the looter part of looter shooter, because your level isn't determined by your gear. In fact, there isn't any gear to be looted. The only real way to up your damage output is to buy different attachments for your guns and or by leveling up. So the only tangible rewards you get from killing enemies is currency that you can use to buy various cosmetics and attachments for your guns. Of course, not receiving rewards after getting kills is normal for the other Wolfenstein games, but when there isn't really a sense of progression like Destiny or Borderlands, it doesn't really feel like you're accomplishing much, especially since the mission design is so lazy. Pretty much every quest you go on, minus the few bigger missions, feel entirely like filler. Each mission is either a fetch quest or a kill mission. There's hardly any variety.
Yeah, this is exactly like a review I read. They were like talking about the last boss fight, and they're like, you know how most boss fights you like can't do it, so you take a break, then you come back and you're like, oh, I got this. You know, they were like, this boss, you do it, you can't beat him, you take a break, and then you come back and you realize you still want to quit.
So if the fun doesn't come from exploring the maps, completing missions, or leveling up, you would at least expect the killing to be fun, right? Well, not exactly. I know I already said that the guns feel nice, but when the bullets leave your firearm to deal actual damage, the novelty fades away. Dealing damage is surprisingly frustrating and confusing. First, there's this really strange ammo type system that has you switching weapons to deal the right kind of damage to the right enemies. Like one enemy might require white ammo to kill, while another guy right next to him might need to be killed with gray ammo. So in a perfect world, you would have an equal amount of guns and ammo for each armor type so you can kill enemies effectively. So here's where the problem arises. Most of the enemies have gray armor, and the majority of your guns deal white damage. On top of that, the ammo for the gray damage guns is incredibly limited due to you needing to use it way more often than anything else. That's a frustration on its own, but the problem is compounded due to everything being a bullet sponge. So not only are you low on ammo because the game favors a specific ammo type, but it's also because it takes an entire mag to kill some mid-level enemies.
I love too how the game can't even show you their health from this distance.
It's so nice.
Just gives up. You just get like freaking XP, and then you're like, oh, I guess he's dead.
There are actually a ton more problems that I have with this game, but for the sake of time, I'm just gonna leave my notes for the game up on screen right now. Yep, most of it's no bueno. Okay, maybe I'm not done talking about the bad stuff, but I promise this is the last thing. In order to get into a lobby with your friend, you need to make a Bethesda account and add your friend in Bethesda's special friends list. This makes zero sense since all major game launchers such as Steam or Origin have fully functioning friends lists, but whatever. Luckily, the rest of how co-op works is relatively inoffensive. It's got drop in and drop out co-op, so you don't need to go into a menu if someone wants to join you while you're playing, and progress is tied to the host, so there isn't any annoying level discrepancies. One really cool thing that Youngblood does that I wish more co-op games did is what Bethesda is calling the Buddy Pass. Basically, if you buy the deluxe version of the game, you gain the ability to invite a friend to play with you for free. But this isn't an extra code that you can just give to one friend. This is basically an unlimited use +1 pass for anyone you'd like to play with. Of course, they can't play without you, but it is really cool that you can let your friends play for free. Are we supposed to pay attention to this?
I know, this is like the least captivating story I've ever heard. Character development? Oh, you mean the trailer?
Now, if everything that I've said so far hasn't dissuaded you and you still want to play this game, here's how to get into a game with your friend. Firstly, make sure you and your partner are friends in the Bethesda friends list, then press play game. From here, customize your character and loadout, then press continue. If you're the one hosting / the one who has the buddy pass, press host game. From there, press use buddy pass if your friend doesn't own the game, or if they do, press invite. From there, the other person can accept that and you can press start game. I could have definitely done without the Bethesda friends list garbage, but it's all relatively painless. In conclusion, I think Wolfenstein Youngblood was really disappointing. It tried to sell itself as just a simple co-op Wolfenstein game, but it ended up being a confused amalgamation of poor looter shooter and open world design. I really wish it could have reined back its ambitions to provide a simpler and more consistent experience. So as a final answer, do I recommend playing Wolfenstein Youngblood in co-op? No. No, I don't. But if you are in the market for an open world looter shooter, Destiny 2 or the Borderlands franchise are great options. I'm TheAmazinggap, and thanks for watching.